issues with the computer, so we're going to start the countdown over. So sorry about that. Just be patient. Thank you.
It's too hard to keep track of all the marketing icons. It's the one thing that the ICOs probably do get right is their icons. Their icons are all pretty cool.
I like Braves, the lion.
Yeah, that one's pretty cool.
Brave browser.
Yeah. How's Salt doing? You ever paying attention to him?
I don't know right now. I know I talked to some of their guys in Denver, and they have a lot of, let's say, a lot of interest. It's kind of like there's a lot of people to onboard and not necessarily enough resources
That's
to
a good problem.
yeah.
Check.
So they have good problems apparently, and they still have some engineering issues to iron out.
Yeah, it's a really freaking awesome idea. Like, it's something that's definitely needed. I just wish somebody was doing it.
Let's see, blockchain asset backed loans. Bitcoin, Ethereum. There's a couple others. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the token is it's a good way to raise money, but
Yeah. It
don't know.
also might turn out to be a good way to get to jail.
Exactly. Or just complicate the user experience,
That too. That for sure.
and could be a distraction in terms of you have
What's going on here? Price. Mew hack. Right. DNS. MIT. That was how to kill Bitcoin 3 ways, I believe. PayPal, Wells Fargo, cracking down. That was international payments. ERC20. That one's a little unspecific.
Oh, that's just Edge.
Oh, Edge's ERC20
Yeah.
implementations. Coolio. I know all those stories. It's one of those years on the lit, Brett.
Kylan kind of just announced some stories, and I just kind of read about them,
Yeah, I know.
see what's going on.
Yeah. Got 6 minutes.
I think.
What's up?
No.
Good.
No problem. Wonder if we can get a Ken Bozak bump
Yeah, give him a
tweeted on
shout
our
out.
notification.
A Bozak bump.
The Bozak
Have you,
bump.
have you met him?
I haven't. No.
He's always at the conferences. He's
Mhm.
always he likes us, and we like
Yeah.
him. He's a friend of Edge. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I know him because I've seen him all the time. He's so animated, but
Yeah. He's one of those guys that says what he wants to. It's kind of refreshing.
You don't like manufactured bullshit?
Not in this space.
The discussions going on is Ethereum or Ripple
I like that,
securities
yeah.
are good.
Can we put that
good
in there?
Discussions.
Okay,
I don't have
know
enough
much about it, but
Yeah, I don't have enough. I'm just saying those are interesting.
I don't think we need to.
We don't
go in depth
know
on it.
enough.
when you guys go on the Facebook and just make sure that there's no echo.
Yeah.
Echo.
Live video interrupted. Is that on purpose?
Give it a minute. There we go.
I don't hear an echo.
Cool.
But that might have been YouTube playing.
Well, even though my first computer messed up, I think for once we might have all the streams going.
You might be jinxing it. Every time I turn on YouTube, it plays for like a second and then stops. That doesn't seem like a problem on your side to me, but
Yeah, I think it's fine on my side.
Our sponsors must be pissed right now.
a second and then stops. That doesn't seem like a problem on your side.
Our sponsors must be pissed right now.
All right, well, it's working now.
Man, why does D Live give me such problems, man?
Because they have like one developer.
But it's on the blockchain, dude.
I think you're right. I think they only do have one developer. I swear. Like, no one knows who he really is. I'm not sure. There we go. Oh, it says it's actually working.
How do I pause?
All right, 2 minutes. Let's interact with the crowd a little bit, huh?
Anybody
All right,
have
wait.
any
Who's out there? What do you
questions?
got? What do you got?
All right,
Bring it
guys, we
on.
haven't even started yet, but for those of you, if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them our way. If you have any comments, throw them our way. We've got, 2 minutes, 40 seconds?
Maybe some compliments,
Some compliments.
some good trolling.
Yeah, feel free
I
to
always
troll
appreciate
us.
some good
Yeah,
trolling.
feel free to troll us, but don't go too overboard with it, I guess.
Well,
Oh, now
Brett-
you're just inviting
Well,
it. No,
Brett-
I like the
Brett
abuse.
has,
I like the abuse.
Brett has, well, he's very sensitive, so.
It's true.
I'm worried he'll storm off. I'll pull a Bill O'Reilly.
I'm a victim.
Check. So.
Doing it live. Fuck.
what is
Darn.
Ripple XRP? Is that right?
I think it's SHIT. Something like that. That was a shitcoin joke.
I got you.
Do you think if there's someone who's a Ripple fan, do you think they would actually still watch this show, or would they give up after like a show or two?
I feel like they always want to argue, so I think they would. I think they'd be in the comment section. of
Check,
every
check,
single
check.
episode.
Check.
Well, the thing about Ripple is it's like a lot of the other coins aren't that. Let's see, they're kind of in the same league as Ripple.
Mm-hmm.
Are there really anything in the same
Check,
league
check.
with Ripple? Like, they actually have like a company behind them.
Well, what I'm
that's
saying is a
even
lot of
more
these-
centralized than most.
Yes, but a lot of the projects have like quasi companies behind them, or it might not be as obvious as Ripple, but effectively the same thing. And like a lot
if
of
you want in your 50 seconds.
What's up?
There's a junk video from your first stream on YouTube. You could maybe get rid of that one if you want to
Okay.
clean it up.
Yeah.
Is there no way to pause Facebook video?
17 seconds. Can he delete the video within 17 seconds? All right, guys. Just so you know, this animation it might get choppy. If so, there's not too much I can do about it.
This is the Cat Crypto.
But I think I'll be getting a new.
Navigate treacherous cryptocurrency to help you arrive at port safely.
There it is.
And your
Yeah, it's a little choppy.
is your host, Kylan Hurt.
Yeah, I know. You gotta hear it afterward. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Captain Crypto Show. Today it is Tuesday, April 24th, 2018, and it is one hell of a week in cryptocurrency. Hopefully you are holding some cryptocurrency because things are popping off, aren't they? So I'm your host, Kylan Hurt, but you can call me Captain Crypto, and this is the Captain's Council. And today on the council, I'm joined by two of my closest crew members. First, we got Maverick off to my left,
yo.
and Action Jackson to my right.
Happy to be here. Smash that like button.
Absolutely, yeah. So for all you guys watching live, please hit subscribe, hit like, hit share, hit all those things. We need as much encouragement as we can get, and we are trying to do our best to give you the best productions and the latest news when it comes to cryptocurrency so that you can stay ahead of the rest of the crowd and get some of that ripe plunder that's just ready for you to take. Okay, so first things first, of course, is the price. So if you've been watching the price during the last week or so, you've watched it go. It depends on which cryptocurrency you're looking at, but it seems like some of them have gone up. For example, I think EOS is up about 40% over the last 2 weeks. I know Bitcoin's probably somewhere 20%, somewhere like that. So I guess the first thing I have to ask to you guys is, do you think this is part of a natural recovery, or is this something that might end up being short-lived? I know no one can be too certain, but what are your thoughts on that, Maverick?
Somewhat short-lived because my reasoning would be the on-chain activity or just general usage and transaction statistics have remained pretty flat from what I've seen. Not a big spike in that fundamental department. The fundamentals are strong, or just hash rate. So entrepreneurs out there staking real energy and competing for Bitcoin, that's real. Average transaction and usage flat. So this isn't necessarily we're not in that frothy bubble.
Right.
It's pretty healthy. We're coming right off of tax season for Japan and the U.S. A lot of commentators were saying that put a big damper on, or I guess was a negative
Downward pressure.
A downward pressure on the price, and since those tax days have come up on both the yen and the U.S. dollar, we've seen kind of a rebounding. So the narrative seems pretty pretty accurate. And then I also see just general sentiment change around from blockchain to Bitcoin, and people taking it seriously and seeing it's not dead and still around. So
Right.
I'd say we're going to be in this range for a little bit. I don't see a big breakout coming, but it's healthy, and nothing springs up that says it's going to like take off from here. But nothing wrong with this rally.
Yeah, I'm thinking with my own holdings, as it's gone up pretty rapidly the last couple of weeks, I've started to take a little bit out because it's fresh in my mind what it's like when it's down, right? You're kind of a little bit more strapped for cash. You don't want to spend any money. So sometimes it's good to take a little bit out when things are doing relatively well so you can have a little bit of a buffer. What do you think, Jackson? I think last week we were talking about how maybe summer things will start to heat up. Maybe that's part of a natural cycle, maybe not. What do you think is causing this recent rise in price for crypto?
I think on the show last week I said that I thought that the tax narrative wasn't a very good narrative, but I think I actually kind of changed my mind on that. I do think that people did expect a lot of selling to come in, and then the part where I thought it fell apart is that like there's not going to be any money to go back in.
Right.
But people that were watching this and hearing this narrative probably did want to wait until after the tax season to buy back in. So maybe there is some money that's coming back in off of that.
Or just people believing that the narrative is true can affect behavior as well.
Yeah, exactly. But as far as like, is the price going up? I honestly, nobody knows, obviously, but I kind of think that we are entering a new bull trend, and I base that off of, I feel like the narrative of like when Bitcoin goes corporate or Bitcoin goes professional, I feel like I've heard that coming around quite a few times, and that'll be a narrative that's way more positive than what we've heard before. And then on top of that, I just feel like the social media stuff that I've read just seems more intense, more volume, and more positive than I've seen lately, and I think
positive toward cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
I'd like to add that even though viewers might see Bitcoin is more expensive on the, just absolute price terms, it's definitely in terms of on-chain activity. When I say on-chain activity, that's people making transactions, or not necessarily people, but, just transactions on the network in general. And when you relate that to network value overall, Bitcoin is a lot cheaper than the other kind of prominent coins out there. So you actually have real activity on the blockchain, and it's actually in if you're looking for value, Bitcoin is actually much cheaper than things like Bitcoin Cash, Ether, Litecoin. People are actually transacting on Bitcoin, and we haven't seen a dramatic fall off in the last couple of months. We have seen it from December. December was a frenzy. We've kind of leveled off, and something else to add is the Bitcoin operates in kind of a greater context of the financial markets, and we're seeing a lot of shakiness in financial markets, yields rising, the stock market's been flat, right? So even if, let's say, on-chain activity doesn't necessarily go up a lot, things can change pretty rapidly, and people can start, over time, more and more people see Bitcoin as a potential out of the other system.
Yeah, I wanted to
protect value,
because that's the main point that I wanted to make when I wanted to talk about this story. I try not to focus on the price because I don't think it's that interesting or important. Right. But there is one pricing related matter that I think is really awesome, and I always love seeing it. And then that is when Bitcoin is acting as an uncorrelated asset to the rest of the financial markets, and that's what we've seen the last couple of days. Most other financial markets have been going down while Bitcoin's going up, and I love seeing that. I love seeing Bitcoin acting like a hedge against the traditional financial system.
Jackson's completely right about that. It's a really important metric for institutional investors that are looking to kind of protect their portfolio, and when they can find a uncorrelated asset that has a chance of quadrupling in value, I think that's a pretty powerful tool to have in an asset manager's toolbox.
Yeah, that kind of brings up another point, and I'm kind of curious what you guys think of this. I'm looking at my portfolio, and for the most part, everything's going up. Some things are going up more than other, but for the most part, things are going up together, lockstep. You look at the graph of Bitcoin. When it goes up, everything else seems to go up. When it goes down, everything else seems to go down. Is that something that you like, or is that something that you dislike? Because you were just talking about how you like to be able to hedge against the traditional financial market. What if you want to hedge against Bitcoin within cryptocurrency? It's still kind of difficult to do that.
Yeah, I absolutely hate that. But I feel like it totally makes sense for what we're seeing. Like, we have a lot of uneducated investors. Like, people don't want to go through and actually learn how this stuff works. Yeah. So instead of actually learning how stuff works, they just like throw their hands up in there and they say, it's too complicated. I'm just going to buy the top 10 and diversify my risk across all of it. And that is what I think explains that kind of movement. And that's fine. Like, it doesn't really matter. You're going to hit 1 or 2 of 10 or something like that, and that's probably what they're hoping for, so that's fine. But I do think that if you really had an educated investor base, you wouldn't really see that. But that, of course, is my opinion.
What do you think?
I think for us, it's a good thing if you can differentiate. So right now, it seems like the crypto market and a lot of the money in it can't differentiate, right? So they're in this, I don't know. They kind of mentally they put crypto assets all in the same bucket, right? Bitcoin is kind of lumped in with everything else, or Monero, because people don't really know how to differentiate, which is actually a good thing if you're an investor. So it's not necessarily a good thing for the market. So there are projects that are able to live longer than they actually should, but it also gives opportunities for investors to accumulate assets they think differentiate, and then at low prices while people are either distracted or they just diversify because it's just a meme out there. You got to diversify too, and that'll make you safer, and that's not necessarily true. But it shows that the market doesn't really know yet how to differentiate these assets. It's kind of like, I know blockchain and crypto assets are going to be good. Let's throw money at it and kind of have this huge, diversified basket of assets, but they don't necessarily know which ones are going to be worth anything. Yeah, but this is a great opportunity. It's something that you don't like and something you do like as an investor.
Right. Yeah. So I'm reading one of the comments here. Lance Thomas, I think he brings up a point. At least I think this is what he's referring to. Is does the fact that Bitcoin and Ethereum, like when those main, top 3 or 4 being the main on ramps, does that cause a natural correlation between the rest of crypto and those coins? Because to get to those altcoins, you have to on ramp through the big ones. Do Do you think that makes sense?
They become the reserve currencies of the, digital asset markets.
Right.
Yeah, so what's the specific question, though?
Well, he's saying Bitcoin, Ethereum are the big gen pop on ramps. Got to wait for fiat parents, and I would think decoupling from Bitcoin or, like just mentioned, a more educated investor base. Yeah, you got to think. I would think that as you get more on ramps, that'll happen less and less. But unfortunately, the number of on ramps for fiat to crypto, that's something that's moving at a snail's pace, right?
Yeah, and that's because it's
A lot of regulation,
you
technology.
got to deal KYC, AML.
Right.
You're onboarding people from analog to digital, or there's just a natural friction there. And then, you have things like the BIT license, you have the New York Attorneys General, you have coming out with a statement they're going to be looking into exchanges. Iran central bank is banning cryptocurrencies in general. There's other, places like Bangladesh. So you could expect these on-ramps not to really speed up anytime soon.
It seems like Coinbase is making sounds towards doing that with some stuff, aren't they?
For which, do you know which? Go ahead.
Oh, definitely. No, they're trying to keep tight-lipped after the whole Bitcoin Cash flow fiasco. But they definitely say that they plan on adding new ERC-20 tokens and
they want to be a licensed broker as well.
Yeah. So I think that is coming. Probably you could describe it as a snail's pace, but it obviously has to have some splash-on effects. If you have to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum to get to these other tokens, then yeah, it's going to move the price a little bit. But you'd think that it wouldn't be that big of an effect, because if they plan on doing that, they're probably not sticking in Bitcoin or Ethereum very long. It just shows up in the volume, but the overall buying pressure should even out if you're buying and selling to get to another thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I guess I'll put you guys on the spot. I know usually it's Jackson that puts us on the spot, but when do you think we'll get back to 20K for Bitcoin? Do you think we'll get back to it in 2018?
Yes.
I'd say yes too.
Yeah, I'd say yes as well. So I guess we'll find out whether this recovery is part of a true, consistent recovery, or if it ends up stalling out again, right?
It's going to be extremely volatile because people don't know how to value it mentally, and the market doesn't know how to. So you can have, the space between 6,000 Bitcoin and 50,000 Bitcoin really isn't that big, and investors are emotional enough and confused enough that both can happen simultaneously this year, which is probably what's going to happen.
Right.
It could hit 50 and then crash to 21.
Well, I'm curious, what do you guys prefer then? Do you prefer a little bit of volatility, or is it something where you would prefer a slow march up that's consistent, if you had to choose between the two?
Ooh, I guess volatility. It's more like life. Life is not just like a linear function. It just goes up and up and up.
Right.
It more resembles life, and it just gets more people talking about it constantly, which I think is always good. Even on these bear cycles, it's you got these crashes, which are people love reading about.
It's the hype cycle. It's a human.
They love
part of
reading
the
about
human condition.
carnage and stuff like that. And investors will learn lessons on the way down, too.
I was going to go with slow drive up, but I think Brett convinced me. I think the news, media, and hype that we get for the ups and the downs is probably a better...
They literally can't stop. They can't keep their
You do get more
cameras
attention.
away.
That's
Yeah,
true.
and they get a lot of clicks. So I prefer the volatility.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out. We're not quite halfway through 2018, and it's already been quite a bit of a wild ride. So for those of you at home who do have some crypto, remember, take care of yourself, pay your bills. Other than that, have some fun.
And what you invest in there should be like a 3 to 5 year fund at least. Money that you can't touch.
Yeah.
For 3 to 5 years, you should have a saving mindset. Accumulating bits over time. The market's going to freak out, good and bad. And it's kind of your job to slowly ease into the market and save over the long term.
Yeah, so I think that's enough on that one. So if you're an audience member at home, you're watching us live, go ahead and feel free to hit us up, send us a question or comment we're on Facebook. I think we're on DLive, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube. So we're in a lot of places. We're taking comments, we're taking questions.
Sorry about that, Captain.
We want to hear what you guys have to say, and if we have enough time to answer your questions, we will definitely try to do it. Okay, so we got quite a few other stories here. One of them is coming out of MIT. Apparently, there is a publication called MIT Review, and they have written an article about Bitcoin that specifically says, where is it? Let's destroy Bitcoin. Three ways Bitcoin could be brought down, co-opted, or made irrelevant by Morgan Peck. This came out, I think, today. Some guy, I don't know if he's actual professor at MIT Technology Review, but he is a journalist for that publication.
Instead of the bottom, he's a freelance writer.
He's a freelance writer. So I'm starting to think maybe this is a little clickbaity.
I know, not even MIT.
MIT kind of brings you
to
in.
clickbait now.
Yeah, the MIT publication thing brings you in, and then it says, let's destroy Bitcoin, right? The ultimate clickbait, and it's not even by a technologist or
should we go
professor.
over it? Should we skip it?
We can go over it just real quickly.
I hope that MIT is not doing the same thing Forbes does, where they just basically
like
will sell their
Post.
name. Like, you can post on Forbes if you pay us enough. Like, MIT should not be in that game. I really hope they're not. But.
Yeah, because I mean, in the past, I've always thought of them as a bit of a respected institution. But I mean, if they're churning out this sort of drivel, I mean, this was just really bad.
Well, I mean, it's clickbaity title, but I think it is actually something MIT should be focused on, like how to kill Bitcoin.
That's what
is
when
important.
you first sent it over, I thought it was like, okay, they're gonna do some high level, all right, what if these 3 nation states colluded to attack these like choke points
the hashing algorithm,
so miners in China their nodes don't work or whatever, right? Something technical, maybe some social media black ops. To sow like social discord amongst the community,
You don't think they're already doing that?
Yeah. So the 3 scenarios they laid out was one, basically the central banks would issue their own coin and people would just use that, which I think kind of misses the whole point of
why would people
the
use
initial
it?
The initial energy behind Bitcoin was explicitly kind of anti-central bank, and it doesn't it wasn't because the Federal Reserve banking system had a bad payment system. It was more because a lot of, I guess, fringe libertarian cypherpunk anarchists don't think the Fed is at the very least incompetent and at most I guess an evil institution. So them issuing their own coin really doesn't really affect the main energy behind Bitcoin that got it all started. Then I guess the second one was some company that
like Facebook
could hijack the rules of Bitcoin, right? They could issue their own
token?
Basically have their own implementation of the Bitcoin software. So instead of Bitcoin Core running, you could run Facebook or Bitcoin Facebook Core. I don't know.
I don't think that they described it very well, but basically they were describing a 51% attack from Facebook.
Yeah, which for the scenario to go through, the guys talking about it, it would be a stunning lack of awareness amongst the Bitcoin user base and mining operations for them to really, for that attack to be successful. Everyone would have to put their hands their heads in the sand.
Yeah, I don't think they take into account, the author doesn't take into account like the whole trust thing. Who do you trust and who do you not trust? I mean, if Facebook comes out with a coin, I'm staying away from it. If the government comes out with a coin, I'm staying away from it. The people who are into cryptocurrency, the large majority will stay away from it.
I would venture to say more people trust an anonymous programmer with a pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto than they trust Mark Zuckerberg.
A politician or
right?
Exactly.
Like I would say there's more public trust for Satoshi than there is for Mark Zuckerberg.
I think that we are in our echo chamber in this conversation. So I do think that this is a pretty valid attack, especially like coming from the government. Like if the government comes out and says, we're going to use the technology behind Bitcoin and make our own currency, I think they will actually get a big majority of the population to start using it. And if they can convince people that we are using the same power that Bitcoin would have given you, but we're just making it easier for you, I think that that is a pretty valid attack. I mean, it's not going to work on Bitcoiners, but it definitely would work on the average majority that doesn't know how Bitcoin works or why Bitcoin matters.
Yeah, I think it's, well, let's see, what's the third one? Go forth and multiply.
Oh, basically just talking about all the basically there's a money for every application, you know,
Oh.
and there's blockchains for any type of thing. Which
Hey, that'll be great. We'll have like 100 different apps installed on our phone. That'll be a great
Yeah.
user experience.
Yeah, I think-
mean, this guy doesn't know how software works. I mean,
Or-
what is this? Why is this guy even writing
or
an
I think
article?
like the history of money in general, or even there's a lot of analogies between money and religion, where people tend to congregate on one, so like monotheism or one dominant currency, or just for like it's hard to trust a lot of different things and focus on a lot of different things. If you can focus on one system and one implementation of trust, that can be a lot more powerful for like pricing and economic calculation and coordination. So I definitely don't buy the argument that I do think there'll be multiple coins, but I like having a coin for everything you like that's just nonsensical to me. So
yeah.
I guess of the three, Jackson thought that the Facebook attack would be, or the first one would be most.
Yeah, just co-opting the technology and claiming that you
it.
use it, even.
Which they're trying. They've been trying to do for years now with the blockchain. Blockchain, not Bitcoin stuff. But I'm seeing that narrative kind of die out and lose a lot of weight. People are like, well, what?
I feel like that was businesses attempting to co-opt the technology, but I think
Not
if
government.
governments attempt to co-opt it, I think that's a different type of attack, and I think that maybe it's more threatening.
Yeah, my thing is with the government too is if they try to do something secretive where they're doing some sort of black ops covert attack, the government's terrible at keeping secrets. I feel like. I mean, there's just no way they'd be able to hide it. I don't think.
Let's just say human beings with terrible incentives aren't very competent.
Yeah.
Yeah, in general. So I think a lot of people overestimate the competence of these governments and their ability to coordinate or really do anything. And that's why I'm on the other side of this bet, right? I don't think they're going to be able to stop it, even if they wanted to.
Yeah, so there you go. Let's destroy Bitcoin. That's the name of the article by Morgan Peck. Morgan Peck, if you're out there listening to this, I think your article is completely asinine. I think you have no idea what you're talking about. And I don't know who let you publish on their website. I think they're idiots too.
Well, and they keep mentioning Bitcoin's anonymous, which I don't know how long can you get the same thing wrong.
Hey, Morgan Peck, go buy some drugs with Bitcoin. Go do it real quick. We'll find out how anonymous it really is.
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Okay, so it seems like every few weeks or so we see another sort of attack or hack going through one of the main focal points, you could almost say, of Ethereum, and that is MyEtherWallet. So if you have used Ethereum, in general, MyEtherWallet is probably the most, useful one. It's more of like a website. I think they actually have a Chrome extension as well.
Yeah, and everyone forwards them to for their token sale to MyEtherWallet.
Yeah, so if you use their website, you have to be really careful because there are people who will throw up a link that looks like MyEtherWallet, but it'll be slightly off. And apparently, the attack that occurred this time, and we're going to get a little technical, is someone somehow got control of their DNS servers. And DNS is domain name service. That's essentially how the internet is able to use like .com and website URL addresses to to guide traffic to the right servers.
So can I just point through? It wasn't their DNS server.
Okay.
Like they didn't control the DNS server. It was a third-party DNS that they used that somebody got control of.
And like we
So-
always say, or Nick Zab always said, third parties are security holes.
Yep.
There you go.
So I just want to say it's not their fault in this
okay.
time.
And let's make the designation: the MyEtherWallet is a web wallet, and this
Right.
is why, and this is exactly why
Web
a lot
wallet's
of
not
people tell you to stay away from web wallets. Edge is not a web wallet. We are a client-side wallet on
you
your
go.
phone, iOS and Android. Check us out.
There you go.
Yeah, and we don't. I guess we don't. We wouldn't fall under this category of attack, and this isn't new.
I think
this is an
blockchain.info had something happen like this about a year or two ago.
Yeah, and just doing some reading and background research on it, this is a fairly old attack. Banks have been attacked this way, or other types of sites, and basically it's not necessarily their fault, but they're depending on kind of insecure infrastructure. And I think how much was jacked? $150,000 worth of ether.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
That's
something
actually
like that.
kind of light considering how many
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
use Ethereum. So I guess I feel bad for the MyEtherWallet guys because there's always something related to them, right?
Yeah, it's not necessarily their fault, but like if you lose money, you don't really care, and that's why we always stress. And I've never used a web wallet. If you shouldn't be using a web wallet, and if you are using it, you should get it off.
You know what? I guess this is relevant, and this is I'll tell this story, but it is a little bit embarrassing. Since this last week, I've been doing stuff on Twitter. Twitter gets very busy, and at Edge, sometimes our posts get a lot of attention, tweets, comments, stuff like that. And there was something I think we were mentioning a feature that we had added, and it was one of the first times where I had so many notifications on Twitter. It was really hard to sort them out. And one of them was a tweet by Edge Secure CO, which is not our handle. And I retweeted it, and and then it was too late. I couldn't delete it. After a certain amount of time, you can't delete the tweet. But luckily, some of our other team members replied to it like, "No, this is a scam." But it was pretty embarrassing on my part. So I guess now Edge is at the point where people are trying to pretend to be us as well.
Yeah. Crypto's definitely a breeding ground for scammers and attackers. And you got to make sure that you're not sloppy, and make sure that you control your keys and you're with, I guess, reputable outlets, institutions, and have good, just good OPSEC and paying attention, right? People are pretty good at directing you to certain sites or making it seem like you're doing something or interacting with something that you're not. So
yeah, I think one of the problems too is it's so easy to make an account. It's like there's no proof of work to create a Twitter account, right? Mm-hmm. So it's people can they can just create them real quick.
Called CAPTCHAs.
CAPTCHAs. Well, so
human proof of work.
So do you think these people are going through the CAPTCHAs? They'll just
Yeah,
they can farm them out.
Yeah, there's
they?
capture farms, which is obviously
God.
what they're doing. Like I've done it for something else, and it's so cheap. And you can pay in Bitcoin.
Oh
of course
my
you
God.
can.
Capture farms. So yeah, I guess people are always trying to find a way around it, and so be careful out there because there are people trying to go ahead.
Yeah, Twitter's got to do something about this. It is so huge of a problem. It's not just in crypto Twitter either. Like Elon Musk, every single tweet he ever does, right under it is a really believable Elon Musk fake account giving away Ethereum.
I've seen some of them with like a verified blue checkmark before too, where I was like, "What the heck?" Like not just
that is on Twitter hard.
I saw that and I was like, "What?" So there's
really
the
gaming the
scammers.
algorithms.
Yeah, the scammers they know what they're like one step ahead, and it's just crazy out there. So be careful with your money because there are plenty of scammers looking to take your stuff. So it looks like we have not an article, but a story here about Ethereum and Ripple and whether or not those are considered securities. Do you have more on that, Brett?
Yeah, just wanted to let people know that there's a lot of discussions going on. I guess more, kind of backroom discussions between like VCs, regulators, and maybe certain foundations. And there's a lot of debate on whether or not the way Ethereum's inception happened and how Ripple was created, that they could have bbe classified as securities and regulated as securities. And that would be absolutely devastating towards, I think, both those projects in a number of different ways. But it doesn't look like the markets don't think it's much of a threat.
I was thinking that starting a couple weeks ago, it seems like Ethereum fell against Bitcoin pretty hard. Seems like it used to be about 10%, and now it's
I would say
5%.
It's been from the top, I would think there would be, just because of all the weak hands, there would be more people selling. Like it would have been a more drastic sell-off than has been happening. But it doesn't seem like people are that worried about it.
Well, my 2 cents on that, like this has been like kind of building for a while, and they started at the bottom with some of the scammiest ICOs, and there's actually been some legal action against them. The thing that they do is they apply something called the Howey test, which is basically like this precedent for how you determine if something is a security. I won't go through it right now, but there's 3 rules, and most of the people that have came out and said that they're looking into this have said like every single ICO that I've seen is a security. Like all the legal minds that I've seen that have looked into this have come to that opinion.
Yeah, I remember seeing some of the, I guess, politicians or whatever you want to call them, regulators, saying that during one of the hearings. And so it is one of the things where it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do? Is it almost too late to really crack down and regulate?
Right. So what I think is probably the reason why Ethereum hasn't fallen so much is that the people that sold the security are in some legal jeopardy if it's deemed a security. But the Ethereum network in general, they don't have a problem with that existing. It's just who sold the security to go and make it in the first place. And the fact that they actually followed through with it, I don't know if that matters. I don't think it does. But even if Ethereum is deemed a security, it's not going to kill the whole network. They can still keep going. But the original token sale starters and people that push that forward, those are the guys that should actually be worried. If some of those guys are really essential to Ethereum, then maybe that is a problem. But it's supposed to be a centralized network. If it really is, they shouldn't care.
Yeah, did you guys see there was a story, I think within the last month or two, where the CEO of Ripple was actually saying something about how cryptocurrency needs more regulation? Did you hear about that at all?
No, I haven't, but I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, and people were like, oh, of course he would say that because he's the CEO of Ripple, and that's what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to be that kind of legal gateway, so...
Well, and they're always trying to, they're trying to play that play... Bitcoin is pretty, and the community is antagonistic towards regulators. Even if a regulator comes with, the best intentions, Bitcoiners will be like, get the fuck out of here, you status pig or whatever. Or the Ripple guys wear suits. They are more in the same social circles and kind of see the world the same way. And they're always trying to cozy up to the regulators, get on their good side, and hopefully, be a part of the system. So they're always trying to play nice.
Yeah, I think with Ripple, and I know I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's time's going on, and they still are not available in most wallets. Most fiat to crypto on ramps don't include Ripple. Ripple's what? Its market cap's like number 3 or something like that.
They don't have developers.
They really have to put up or shut up. Do they not have much developers? I remember hearing something like that where there's just not many people volunteering to do things.
Because I don't see the marketing pitch for like real human talent. Like it's not a very inspiring story where something like Ethereum or Bitcoin or Monero can really,
people are enthusiastic
get people
about
enthusiastic
it.
about it. There's kind of more of a higher ideal where Ripple's like, all right, we're going to make the existing system more efficient. It's like, all right, that's just, you're playing within a sandbox that's already been set up, and you make it a little nicer to play in, where the other ones are like trying to open up a whole new world. And I think the most dedicated, talented, idealistic engineers and entrepreneurs will not be attracted to that.
Yeah, the enthusiasm that I usually see for Ripple is usually about
the holders,
about the money, about making returns, and not about the tech. I don't remember the last time I've heard someone say anything enthusiastic about.
And it's not necessarily they don't have good tech, but it's not.
It's just not.
It's not something that excites people.
Not compelling. Yeah.
And
but what they're trying to build isn't hard. Like a centralized system for payments is super easy. Like that's the way we do it. So it's not like impressive tech, but what's impressive about it...
It's complicated, but it's not...
it might be.
Yeah.
It's not like Bitcoin complicated, but what's impressive about it is if you can actually get all these institutions to agree on one system, that's what would be impressive. But it's not the tech that's impressive. It's the political ninjery that would be impressive. If
it's
they could
working
do it.
within this like analog system and kind of tying it together, and then convincing them to use another asset to denominate, or do transactions in. So I don't necessarily understand the bull case, but there's tons of people on Twitter that disagree.
Yeah, and somehow it seems to do just fine price wise when I don't really see much adoption, whether it's wallets or even banks. And you always hear about these partnerships, but I don't know if I ever really see much actual stuff.
They have good PR.
They have maybe the best PR in the business. Yeah. Okay, so that's enough about Ripple. Now, one thing that I noticed in my email account this morning and was that, first of all, I bank with Wells Fargo. I feel dirty just saying that. And every day that goes by, I feel like it just gets worse and worse. So today they decided, they sent out an email that says, cash deposits will be limited to account owners or authorized signers. So if someone else has an account at Wells Fargo, if I want to send them money through an actual online service through Wells Fargo, I'm limited to like $2,500 per month or something like that. I don't know why they limit it. They know who I am. They know who the person I'm sending to is, but they've decided they limit it. So usually what I do is I go in and I'll put in deposit cash, and now they're saying they're adding more limits to what you can do. You're not going to be able to do that without showing some sort of ID. So this goes along with PayPal. They've been also beefing up their KYC. I think if you have someone sending you money from internationally, there's some sort of limitation.
Yeah, I heard there's now like a new $5.99 fee for international payments is what I heard.
Okay, got it. So is it mostly about the fee or the identification or just both?
I mostly heard about the fee, but I could have missed something.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So this is just part of the general crackdown on cash and I guess you could say anonymous transactions, if you will. We've seen other countries that are trying to do that, but so I'm curious, when you guys bank with the fiat system, are you seeing similar crackdowns? Because I feel like I keep on hearing it's like, oh, now it's Chase, now it's Citibank. Maybe not those examples, but it seems like it's whack-a-mole or something.
Yeah. Am I seeing the same? I feel like...
Are they getting more strict with your fiat banking?
Well, Brett's thinking, I bank with a small credit union.
Right.
And I have had zero issues ever. Like, a lot of people say that they have problems, like, sending money to, like, a Bitcoin exchange or something like that.
Right.
No problems. People have problems with, like, saying Bitcoin in, like, their transaction notes. I tested it just to see if I'd have trouble, so I could have a story.
You put
They're
Bitcoin in the
fine.
transaction notes?
Yeah, so just shout out to a Numeric credit union up in Washington. They're pretty freaking awesome.
There you go.
Yeah, the stuff just goes on the theme of, the fiat system is a command control system and the banks have grown up in a system that you can't really get out of, so they can do some things and you can't really do anything about it. And you mentioned those limitations, and I was thinking the other day, someone announced that there was a Litecoin transaction that was $99 million moved with like 20 cents, and it was confirmed in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. So crypto kind of opens up the possibilities, and what you're seeing in the fiat system is it'll become more and more constrained and closed, and it'll just decay.
Yeah, one thing I noticed this weekend, I was actually at a music festival, and it was something where I keep most of my savings in cryptocurrency.
What festival was it? Just tell the listeners.
I was at Coachella.
There we go.
All right, you heard it. And I had almost frictionless and almost seamless, well, maybe not quite seamless, but a pretty good experience actually using our wallet, using our Edge wallet, because we can hold multiple currencies. And as much as I poke fun at Coinbase, they can be convenient at times as a sort of interface between fiat and crypto. So I have a Shift card. So for those of you at home who want to know or do not know how to spend money with a Visa that's linked to your Bitcoin, if you use Coinbase, they allow you to do that. There are limitations. Obviously, anytime you're using fiat, there are limitations. But it was great because anytime that I got relatively low, all I would have to do is take my Bitcoin wallet, which is on my smartphone, and send whatever currency I wanted to my Coinbase account. Because a lot of the Coinbase currencies that they what's the term I'm looking for? Support are the same ones that our Edge wallet supports. Our Edge wallet also does shapeshift. So there are multiple times where I was shapeshifting, EOS to Bitcoin, Bitcoin to Ethereum, whatever. And I was able to do that with relatively low fees. And it was one of the best crypto experiences I've had. And this was during the weekend. So normally, if I wanted to send money from Coinbase to my Wells Fargo account, if it's during the weekend, I'm screwed. I'm not getting it till Monday. So I think cryptocurrency is coming along. I know I'm giving a shout out or shilling my own mobile software that we write here at Edge, but it's working pretty well. Things are getting better.
100%. I'm seeing improvement every day, and God, there's just so many projects out there. And so many teams like ours all around the world that, like we were saying before, the other system is kind of limited, closed off, constraining. Crypto is open 24/7, open to anyone, empowering, right? Limitless. You can send a $99 million transaction for 20 cents in under 2 minutes, right?
Right.
Not possible in fiat.
Right. Yeah, I think I announced it last week on Twitter. I actually am at the point where I think either the majority or a really large chunk of my crypto holdings are in our Edge wallet. So I'm using our own products. So
Skin in the game.
yeah, I have skin in the game. If if Edge has problems, that means I have problems, which is kind of what you want from a development team, because you want them to know what the users are going through. So immediately when I started putting most of my money in there, and actually starting to use it, I started noticing some bugs here and there. But in general, our app, in my opinion, this is me being unbiased, has come a very long way in the last couple of months. And I'm enjoying using it. It's a good experience. Not perfect, obviously, but now at least I have a better idea of what some of the issues are with our application, because we still have a long ways to go. And you better believe that we're working, around the clock trying to fix them. Okay, so I guess one more thing while we're talking about Edge Wallet was we actually, I don't know if I mentioned it last time or not, but we added a feature last week. It's what is it, EIP 961. We actually made a proposal for the Ethereum, I don't know what you call it, project, where if you want to add an ERC20 token, like a custom one, and literally custom, like you can create your own ERC20 token. You can go on YouTube and find out how to do it. And now we've made it so that if you want users to be able to easily add your tokens, they can actually do it with the scan feature. You can make a barcode and you can make it so that they can just scan it. So, I mean, it's funny because on Twitter, I think Tiffany, one of our teammates, was like, "Oh, good job, Kylan. That's a great idea." For the record, this was not my idea.
Whose idea was it?
I think it was either Paul or Williams or both of theirs, something like that.
But you submitted the...
Yeah, so I submitted the proposal. So if you submit it, I mean, you kind of, like, you put your name on it. So it's me and Ellie's name, but now it's not approved yet or anything like that, but it is cool to think that, like, the Ethereum project has something that has my name on it,
Yeah.
So with that, I think that's pretty exciting, and the how would I say it? The process is pretty seamless. So now, if you're out there and you are issuing custom ERC20 tokens, you should definitely consider using Edge, because we can help you make a barcode so that your users and your investors are able to easily hold and track custom ERC20 tokens. Yeah. So definitely consider Edge. We're getting more and more competitive. We're trying to think about usability, that user experience, trying to figure out what the users want. So that's another thing. If you have specific features you want, hit us up on Twitter at EdgeSecure, or you can hit me up at CaptainCryptoHD. We do make ourselves quite accessible. So what do you think? Any other stories you guys want to go over? I feel like it has been a pretty busy week, but mostly due to the price, I guess I would say.
I want to kind of ask you about Monero. And
about Monero.
What's the postmortem on the kind of the ASIC attack, or what the community's talking about?
Yeah, hold on. Before we do that, I'll remind you guys, the audience at home, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to send them our way. We're always looking for more ways to interact with you guys. Okay, when it comes to Monero, I'm still bullish on Monero. How would I say this? I'm relatively less bullish on Monero, not because I don't have faith in the technology or anything, but when I think of improvements that are coming down the pipeline, mobile wallet could be one of them, but we don't know when that's even going to happen.
Yeah.
The other one is hardware wallet. Nano will integrate it soon, so that will help as well. But once you get past those two things, scalability is still a very big issue with Monero, and there doesn't seem to be any big solutions coming until maybe late next year at the earliest.
Okay.
So if we get to there was a little bit of a sprint back in like October or so, when there was a lot of things that were coming up, and it did do very well, especially relative to other cryptocurrencies, notwithstanding the recession or whatever you want to call it. But I'm still bullish, and I think the technology is good, but I have diverted some of my funds into EOS. I think
Okay.
I've talked about EOS before. I don't think Jackson's as much of a fan, but
Trying to hide my grimace.
but on June 1st, they are launching their actual blockchain. I guess I might as well go over it now. So EOS, right now it's an ICO token on Ethereum. If you own any of those tokens, then on June 1st, you will, as long as you
That's
register.
the sound of the EOS bubble popping.
Oh yeah, okay. As long as you register your your EOS tokens, then you will get a proportional amount of tokens on the EOS blockchain when it launches on June 1st. You have to make sure you register them. But the way EOS is working, it's essentially a lot of the same project members as are coming from Steam and BitShares, and they are aiming for, decentralized applications. So I actually did an episode on Everpedia, which is kind of an example of a project where they're trying to disrupt and take over the status quo. So like Everpedia is trying to take over Wikipedia. So every week you hear us complain about content publishing platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, I'm trying to think what other ones. There's a bunch that are like that, right? Instagram, Snapchat. There are all these issues with these centralized applications. And EOS, you have a lot of projects that are starting up, and they are aiming to disrupt those decentralized applications and even create systems of incentive that give people incentive to do the right thing to help the community. So people are getting very excited about it, and that's why you're seeing I think it's literally a 30% increase in the last 24 hours. Now, whether or not it'll sustain that price, I have no idea. But actually, I made a prediction. Jackson wasn't there this morning. I made a prediction this morning, and this is just a prediction. It's crypto. Who knows what'll happen? So it's February 24th, and I think by the end of 2018 that EOS will likely have a larger market capitalization than Ethereum. That is my guess. I think Ethereum is having too much issues with scalability. Now, if they're able to fix those scalability issues before the end of the year, maybe they could stay in the lead, but I think at the very least it's going to be close.
So do you think that your reasoning behind that is Ethereum will be stuck with proof of work, they won't be able to move to proof of stake? EOS has already, they've already been like, we're not going to use proof of work, we're going to use delegated proof of stake. Right, more explicit. They don't have this legacy proof of work chain to go. They have kind of a fresh start. Is that kind of what you're and it's optimized for scalability?
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to say it. Ethereum is kind of trying to do everything, patch up the legacy sort of software, and it just seems like that's a bit more of a challenge. Whereas if you're starting fresh and you decide you're going to do something with scalability in mind, then you might be better off for decentralized applications. And it seems like, well, I can't guarantee this, but it seems like there's plenty of projects that are wanting to go with EOS. Whereas, with Ethereum, I feel like I'm not seeing many decentralized apps coming out, not many announcements of them coming out either. I know everyone's talking about CryptoKitties, and we were excited about that, but that pretty much brought the network to a standstill,
didn't it?
Can't
really handle any application with a lot of usage. Neither can Bitcoin can't handle that many transactions. All these things are going to have a tough time scaling.
Excited for CryptoKitties? Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I didn't use it, to be fair, so maybe I'm not being fair to the developers for that application. But yeah, I think EOS, and Jackson has brought this up in the past, it does seem a little bit like maybe they're sacrificing a little bit of decentralization for scalability, but I think you go into that knowing it, right? So that's a trade-off. That's kind of what you sign up for, if that makes sense.
Are there any other reasons besides scalability for EOS taking over Ethereum's market cap?
No, I think that's enough. There's enough. There's just going to be enough apps that are going to be be built upon it. I think if you look at the developers, they seem really excited. They're starting to line up out the door essentially to start building apps on EOS. But so, it is something where we're not sure what's going to happen. Maybe maybe they still won't be able to scale good enough. There's a million different things that can go wrong. But you do have a team that does have some experience with other blockchains that they've made that are successful. So you do have to keep that in mind. What do you guys think? Any other stories that have?
I was just scrolling through the top stories. I don't think there's anything. It seems like everything's been drowned out by the price going up recently.
Yeah.
No one wants to talk to us?
No. Well, let's see here. Lance Thomas says, before you guys go, could you discuss your views on the future of smart contracts, i.e. key projects, necessary developments, potential for mass and or corporate adoption? The World Economic Forum has been discussing them as a turning point. Okay, this is really long. What do you think of smart contracts in general? So as a developer, I will say that smart contracts, the idea sounds very exciting, but the idea that you can have this contract that is immutable is really scary. So I think in a way the development of smart contracts is going to be I guess you could say slow, because it almost has to be, because you've seen what's happened in the last year, how many smart contracts have had little bugs, glitches, vulnerabilities that have been taken advantage of, that have been exploited. You've seen hundreds of millions of dollars easily going up in smoke, not up in smoke, some of it up in smoke, but getting lost because of it. So I think that smart contracts are exciting, but yeah, it's going to be moving slowly, and it probably should move a little bit on the slow side.
Yeah, I guess it's replicating what already happens in the physical world, or our legal system on the internet, where you can have like complex instructions for transferring value, which is pretty powerful. I do think it's not necessarily clear that everything needs a smart contract. So I think let's say the term smart contract is overhyped, so I would short it, right, if it was like an asset.
Right.
Because it can seemingly be applied to anything, which usually means it applies to nothing. And I think the first, if they can be used, I think the first use case will be security tokens and the remaking of financial markets. I think that'll be because the essence of a contract is, something was promised, or some duties were agreed to, and then some value was transferred. There has to be some type of value, and that's what we're talking about with smart contracts. Is you are in the purely digital realm, and certain actions happen, and there's payouts. I think that is most applicable, and where we'll see the most, I guess, the first real impact of it will be in the building a whole new financial system that kind of is outside of the traditional infrastructure that Wall Street has built. So I see securities as the first kind of impactful. What is it? Smart contract. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, Jackson, because you are a bit more of a Bitcoin maximalist, and Bitcoin, it seems like smart contracts has never been the big focus there. So is it something where, are you interested in smart contracts, or do you think it's overrated?
I think what Brett said was really genius, and smart contracts are the second most overhyped word behind blockchains in this space. Smart contracts are incredibly powerful. There's no doubt about that, but they're not really what I think most people think they are. And I think the only thing they're useful for is, one is multi-sig, and the second one is some sort of like time locking.
Right.
Simple stuff.
Yeah, the only things that you can actually do with the knowledge that is already on the blockchain. One, if there's anything you have to input onto the blockchain to execute this contract, say like if you're gambling and you have to have somebody who says,
this is who won.
Yeah, who won this bet, then there's a centralized point.
The
You
Oracle
don't
problem.
have a decentralized smart contract. You might as well just have a centralized contract. And then the second one is, if there needs to be any enforcement outside the blockchain, say if you have a security token and you have a company that you have to get to bend to your will because you own their security token, but then they're just like, no, then your smart contract is useless. So if you don't have, if you can avoid those two problems and probably a bunch of others, maybe there's some smart contract that's useful, but I don't see a use for it outside of multi-sig and time lock.
Yeah, when I think of smart contracts, especially with the Oracle issue, it's funny that people were super excited about smart contracts from the beginning, because from the beginning I was like, well, how do you find out what, like you said, real world stuff? How do you get people to report it correctly? Even if you have something like Gnosis or Augur, it's still an incredible challenge. So just before we go, I was curious. So one thing I keep on hearing is people saying, okay, is cryptocurrency, is it a security or is it a currency? So why haven't they just created a new category? Isn't that kind of the answer? It seems like that's...
Because I think it takes a long time to develop language in a whole new category. People can everyone has to make analogies so they can understand something new. They have to integrate it with the language or the concepts they were using before, and it's going to take time, but I think Chris Berninski's done some good work on that. He's the one who wrote Crypto Assets, or he's trying to do he's been trying to lay out a taxonomy or how to categorize these things. But to take your point in general,
do you think that's what they're going to do, or what's the time
Who's
frame?
they?
You think the government regulators?
Oh, they're going to see
create a new asset class or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, okay. God, that would take a long time. I don't think that's going to happen.
What are we talking? Like decades? 2 decades?
Yeah, like a whole.
What do you think?
Like they would have. I don't even know what. Yeah.
What do you think, Jackson?
That's a long way
Dude,
away.
I'm stumped on that one.
They're gonna try to shoehorn it into one of the existing categories, I guess.
I mean, they're trying to.
They're all saying different things.
Yeah, each regulatory agency they see it as it falls in their. They can make an argument where it falls under their supervision or their definition, because Bitcoin's so useful and so different that it can fall in like an infinite number of boxes that are kind of paradoxical,
All right.
but true at the same time.
My thing on the spot: currency, commodity, security, or new asset class. Yeah, pick one.
I think it'd be great, a new asset class. I mean, because I'm sick of this shoehorning stuff. I can't stand it. I don't know what you'd call it. Cryptocurrency, crypto asset. I don't know what you'd call it. What do you think, Brett?
What do you call it? It's like a new. It's like almost to me. It's a new social organization. A new type, a new form.
You have to come up with a better branding name for it. What do you think, Jackson?
I could lock Brett down. He's still.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about digesting it.
I think if I had to pick, I think I'd pick commodity.
I think so too. I think you're right about that.
I think the last thing that we're missing from that is for one of the protocols to actually solidify. And once it's actually not changing anymore, then I don't think you have an argument for security. And then between commodity and currency, I don't care. You can use a commodity money. You can use a currency that's a commodity. It's fine.
I think commodity would be the best. I think the most accurate of what it is right now, and
it's kind of what I think of. It's like I think of these things that I have, like these coins, kind of like.
Yeah, and then you have the proof of work component, and they're trying to model it after gold, and then it isn't really used as a currency that much, right? And I guess currency might be a dirty word because people think of it as something that's issued by states, so it's not issued by a state, and people don't use it that often for transactional purposes. So commodity would probably, and it's produced, right, like a commodity, or people have to work for it. So yeah, I
while
agree
it's
with
still
Jackson.
moving, then you're depending on whoever is actually doing.
You mean
the
like while
work.
there's still proof of work going on, or
No. While the code is actually changing, rules are changing in the system. I think eventually, just like other internet protocols that were changed quite a bit in the beginning, but then they solidify and people start building on top of them, and that they can't change anymore without breaking everything. Then at that point, that is when you can call it a commodity. But its genesis is not a commodity is still interesting.
All right. Let's see here. We do have, what do you think? One more question. Guys, what are your thoughts on decentralized exchanges and any news on upcoming ones where you see potential? What are the biggest issues from a technical point of view for a decentralized exchange? That's from Who's Sailing? I don't know how to pronounce it.
That's a perfect name for a show.
I feel like it's a fake name. No offense if it's a real name. Yeah, decentralized exchanges. Everyone's talking about it. So I was talking about EOS. They got Bitfinex is building a decentralized exchange on EOS. They're calling it EOS Finex, which is not a very creative name. I think there's someone else that was also planning on doing a decentralized exchange on EOS. So those are the ones that I've heard of. It's weird because people say, "Oh, there's already some," and I guess there are some decentralized exchanges, but they're just not easy to use. Like BitShares is one. I think Ethereum has one too.
BISC. BISC. Yeah, that's probably the most well-known. It's BISQ.
I think that's right.
Yeah,
so probably the most well-known.
Yeah, I haven't looked into decentralized exchanges too much. What is the issue? It's just it's hard to do it where no one's holding on to
usability and liquidity.
Yeah, liquidity is an issue.
So, yeah, those are the two issues.
And I don't know if you'd even call it an issue, but traditional currencies to digital currencies is impossible. Probably.
Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah, fiat to crypto is never going to happen.
That's where it's hard. That's the hardest part. The crypto to crypto decentralized exchange, I think, are definitely much more compelling and just natural.
Yeah, at least
right?
that's possible.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think about it is, yes, decentralized exchanges will be cool, but I don't think like the actual decentralized exchange you're going to use is going to matter. Like, I think it's going to be more like a Pirate Bay type setup where you go on any site to find your tracker, whatever you need.
And
for
they'll
it.
link you all
Dynamic.
together.
Yeah, but then you just use an atomic swap contract that is a
Right.
smart contract.
We're in the future, boys.
Yeah, and then you just line up with somebody, you agree on the price that you're going to swap at, you create the contract, you guys both enter into the contract. But those things can be done over anything. It could be done over Facebook Messenger
Yeah.
if you wanted to. So
Yeah.
I think atomic swaps are interesting. They will allow you to do decentralized exchange, but I don't think you're ever going to care about the decentralized exchange.
Like which one you're using. And I don't even know if they'll be able to take a cut, will they?
They shouldn't be able to, no.
Yeah. So this
I mean, if they do, you're a
Not
dumb
gonna use
person
them.
because you could just find somebody who's edited the contract and taken out whatever fee they're including in it, and
Right.
use it that way.
Yeah, so decentralized exchanges are coming. Like you said, I know
There's a bunch being built. Yeah.
Yeah, and with BitShares, I know definitely liquidity is one of the issues because now you have a bunch of people creating decentralized exchanges. So it's like, which one do you use? So all the users are kind of split up, and then usability is always an issue.
Yeah, and
right?
that's where the first adopters will go in, kind of like rushing into Normandy, right? They'll be trying out new products, new services, giving feedback to these projects. Some will fail, some, might have some critical bugs. Others will succeed. Decentralized exchanges is definitely something that the community itself is very excited about, just from like a nerdy perspective, something cool. And then from a adversarial thinking perspective, where exchanges are a choke point for nation states if there ever was a serious crackdown. So when more and more, if decentralized exchanges become more powerful, more usable, that's just another thing that makes a lot of these crypto assets sovereign grade resistance, where even if because a lot of these exchanges are definitely big choke points that governments can clamp down on and really disrupt the flow of things and on ramps. And if we have decentralized exchanges that have liquidity and usability, it's basic. The cat's out of the bag. And
those choke points are going to be on the fiat pairs, though, which isn't going to be affected by this.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, if they get shut down, there are things like BISC and like HODL is another one, or maybe local Bitcoin-esque type things, peer-to-peer exchanges, or 0x protocol, which is more ERC20. But there are solutions that are kind of not necessarily ready for a lot of users, but like there are gateways, there are decentralized exchanges set up that people can go to and use.
Like peer-to-peer protocol, peer-to-peer exchanges seem like a more important thing to me than a decentralized exchange.
For fiat on ramps, yes. Okay.
And as far as censorship.
Yeah, when it comes to decentralized exchanges, sometimes we have the conversation at Edge. Let's say there are decentralized exchanges. So how do you interact with it? Like if you're going to put money and you're going to send it to you're not sending it to an exchange. You're communicating through the exchange. So there's kind of the conversation of, as a wallet company, are we going to be part of that process? If so, what role will we play? So
I think so.
It's something that we are discussing. But obviously, the technology is in its early stages. But who knows? Maybe
I think something like the 0x protocol is pretty cool, and something that I think conceptually we can put in our wallet, or at least.
So that's like a standard.
How I see is you could run a relay, which is basically like a server that has like some type of order book. I'm kind of talking on my ass a little bit,
right.
But in a way that we're not holding any funds. We're just communicating certain orders that can be filled, and can. As a wallet, we have a lot of users that have, they have money and they can access this 0x market to trade their ERC20 token directly with, somebody else.
Got it. There you go. Well, that sounds like a lot of work,
which is good.
Which is good because that means I'll be employed more. But sometimes some of the work we get can get pretty hairy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're gonna close it down. So. For all you guys out there, this is your captain and your crew wishing you fair winds and following seas, guys. Set sail.